Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Iblis Manifestations Podcast. This channel features lengthy off-limits conversations with various different artists and entrepreneurs, predominantly from the underground metal scene. We take deep dives into the topics of life, music, spirituality, and take insight from a variety of thought-provoking perspectives from personalities who you don't often hear from in a mainstream settings. I am your host, Cheyenne, and I was originally born and raised in Iran and currently reside in the UK. I am the frontman and founding member of the black death metal band Trivex, who have been active since 2009. The band originally started in the Islamic Republic of Iran, where such type of music is banned as well as a punishable offense. You can check the band's pages for any updates on tour dates as well as new music. I am also a personal trainer and an online fitness coach who specializes in people achieving the best versions of themselves physically and mentally. Having been someone who was once extremely out of shape and overweight, I find it to be my duty to be able to pass on the information and knowledge which I've gained to help others achieve the same transformation. The Iblis Manifestations Podcast also features a variety of solo episodes where I discuss personal experiences and anecdotes in a very candid fashion, covering everything from mental health, spirituality, philosophy, and even paranormal experiences. This is the Iblis Manifestations Podcast. To support it, be sure to subscribe to the channel and visit the link in the descriptions.
It's great talking to you, Cheyenne, really. And best of luck to your endeavors with this podcast. I think it's a great initiative.
You're my favorite person to talk to for interviews and stuff. So I love what you're espousing out here. I love the knowledge and the perspectives that you're curating through this, and I'm just so honored to be a part of it. Thank you.
As I told you, it was one of the most interesting interviews I've ever had, because we talk a lot more things than just music, and I really appreciated that.
I respect you deeply, and it's an honor to be here.
And friends, remember as always, better to die on your feet than to live on your knees. Enjoy the podcast. Tell you what, before we even get into it, I have to tell you, actually, you were amongst one of the first guests that I actually had in mind to have on this podcast. Just FYI, I never told you this prior to our conversation, but I've actually been wanting to have you on here for quite a while. So I'm glad that for whatever reason that the stars aligned and we're finally doing this. How are you doing this morning?
Yeah, good. It's nice and early, as I was saying, but yeah, man, it's good to be here. I've been watching the podcast for a while now. You know, not every episode, just depending on how much time I've got.
There's quite a few.
Yeah. But they're interesting. You know, it's a good approach to a podcast. That's, you know, not just music or not just, you know, philosophical ideas or whatever. You know, it's pretty broad. So I like that. Yeah, it's interesting.
Sure. No, I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Good work, man.
Yeah, we'll get into all of that. Yeah, and you know, for me as well, just from the music standpoint, I've always very much had a reverence for the Australian scene in particular. You know, I mean, I can see you've got the Denouncement Pyre shirt right there. You know, and yeah, those guys are killer. You know, and obviously every band that you've been involved with yourself. But maybe let's kind of start from the more recent stuff at the moment, and then perhaps we can kind of work our way back. You recently sent me some demos for Psychic Mass, and this is this like a new rock project that you've got coming up? It's the first time I've heard of it until you sent it to me. Very fascinating stuff.
Yeah, well, it's a band that Paul from Denouncement Pyre, the main songwriter from Denouncement Pyre.
All right.
Yeah. He started it. He had a bunch of ideas a few years ago now. I think he started writing them during COVID.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, he lives in Melbourne, and I live 2 hours north of those guys. So Melbourne had a pretty heavy duty lockdown, and so he was writing a heap of material, and I think he just got to a point where it was like, I want to write something a bit different. But he'd sort of put together like a very rough demo, and he showed it to me at one point, and I was like, man, we should do something with this. Like, there's some killer ideas happening here. And since then, yeah, we started, when the lockdowns had all come off and all that sort of crap, we started jamming, and we, I can't even remember. My whole timeline with that COVID shit is all out of whack, you know.
Well, it's crazy to think that was like 5 years ago this time. We were in like full-blown fucking lockdown, man. It's stupid.
I know. And it's like, what year did that happen? Was that, it was after COVID, but even then it's like, man, was it 2023 or what? But I think in 2023 we started jamming, and we recorded a four-track EP that we actually pressed on record, which we've still got copies of. But in any case, yeah, that sort of has become for me and him, like, at least in my case, probably my main musical focus for a while now.
I see.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about all the other band stuff and whatnot, but yeah, Nocturnal Graves has been really quiet. I worked on a few songs a couple of months ago, but for the longest, the last year and a half or so, the Psychic Mass stuff, we've been doing heaps with that. So so those to get back to what you were saying, those 4 tracks, it's like a sort of like, we wanted to do 4 tracks as a bit of a promotional sort of thing, just to keep spreading the word out there and see what interest it drums up. But it's the process, the writing process, that we're really into, and it's all DIY. Like, we write record it all at home here at my place, and do all the mixing here and everything and whatnot. So yeah, it's as an artistic sort of expression, it's been killer. Yeah, and so that's why it's been a pretty big focus for me.
And I suppose it's a bit different to everything else you've done as well. I mean, when I stuck the first song on, I was like, whoa, that's not what I was expecting to hear, even with the name, with your stuff, because you're a very talented and accomplished extreme metal drummer, and then to hear that style, I was like, fuck, that's not what I was expecting. And then, female clean vocals and occult style, kind of like guitars and, more straightforward beats. I was very fascinated by it. And who's the lady who's doing the vocals? Is she a permanent member of the band as well, or is it just someone? Yeah. Okay.
No, that's Liz. That's Paul's wife.
All right. Very cool. Yeah. Very cool.
Because when he had recorded these original demo tracks that he showed me a couple of years ago, he had a different sort of idea with what the vocals where the vocal direction would go, and he had a fellow from Melbourne in mind. But I ended up saying to him, why don't you get Liz to have just have a shot, see what happens. The worst that can happen is that it's like, nah, this is terrible. Or it's just not convincing, like, nah. But she did a demo, and it was like, man, she's got a good voice. Like, she's got the right sort of tone for this kind of, because it's a 60s psychedelic kind of vibe to the music, So,
yeah, it is.
Her vocals are really, and she's developed heaps, because we've been doing heaps of recordings and heaps of sessions just here. So she keeps improving. So yeah, it's I dig it because it's so broad in terms of the field of like what you can put into it. It's ultra broad. So we've got ambient sort of stuff and like stuff that almost sounds a bit Rose Tattoo, Pink Floyd, those kind of vibes. Jefferson Airplane is a reference we've heard pop up a few times, which I dig that stuff anyway. And so
maybe like
cool.
very early Blue Oyster Cult as well, perhaps.
Yeah, for sure. And like, Arthur Brown is probably an influence, not necessarily musically, but like just the vibe, and he,
the vibe. That's it. Yeah.
I mean, I fucking love Arthur Brown. I think he's genius, man. Wild.
Yeah. Yeah. It was crazy. Like, we went to this event recently in London, and we were there the whole time. And whilst we were stood there was like this tall guy that was like stood like right next to us the whole time, And we're like, oh yeah, cool. I never got introduced to him at the show. Leave the event and then look back at the pictures. It's like, oh, fucking hell, I was stood next to Arthur Brown. It's like, what the fuck? It's great.
I know a few people that have like met him at concerts and stuff like that. And they've all said like, yeah, man, he's awesome. Like they just started chatting to him, and he was like really engaging, and a character. So,
well, to me, I sort of see him as like the sort of, I suppose in a way, you're like an originator of occult rock,
100%.
You look at him and maybe someone like Screaming Jay Hawkin, you put the two of them together, you got like the source of it right there.
They had something cooking, like they were onto something, and it was the right time, the level of kind of conservatism, I guess, in society at that time meets the expressive kind of eccentric youth movement that was also bubbling. It's like, man, he was like, Arthur Brown was like bang right there, and doing something that was, I suppose, for somebody ultra conservative would have been like, what the fuck is this guy doing? This is like over the top. You watch interviews with him, man, back then, and he's just having fun with the interviewers and their perception of like what he's doing. He's sarcastic, and it's a real sort of like sardonic kind of cat and mouse sort of game he's playing. It's very, in that regard, it's like you can tell he's not taking that society very serious, and he's putting, you turn a mirror back on that, and it's like, man, you guys are outraged by the most ridiculous stuff. But take a look at yourself and get fired up about it. And here I am doing what I'm doing, And I dig all that stuff, man. I think it's over the years, I mean, like, I'm 46 now, and I was thinking about this the other day. I've been playing, like full on, like put like metal, even when I first started playing drums and guitar and stuff. When I was like, I was 10, really. I started drumming and getting on the guitar. And it was, trying to learn Metallica and stuff. And it progressed. But then it was like, we were playing like real shitty, but trying to play death metal and stuff in, like 92, and terrible. But it was always about trying to play something more extreme and more full on. And, doing that.
Which, for the record, at the time, I don't think there were many musicians in that particular neck of the woods who were trying to play this style, right?
And I grew up in a small country town, and the population of the whole area was like 5,000 people.
Right.
And so there was me and one other kid who was genuinely into what we were discovering. And then we just had a couple of friends that, played instruments and whatnot, and they'd jam along, but they were never hardcore into it, much to my chagrin, because I would always be like, you got to do this seriously. And when you're a kid, you're like, if you're full on about something and other people aren't playing the same game, it's, easy to get in fights with them and cause, which is what was happening. It was constant fallouts and carrying on, But anyway, so in Melbourne, there was a good metal scene, but, I was like 12 years old, 13 years old. You know, in 92, I was 13. And so I wasn't going down there to gigs to watch, you know, Corpse Molestation started playing, I think, in 92, you know. So there was a scene, but it was like limited to, you know, the cities and stuff like that. Out in the country towns, it was like, no. There was a few people here and there, most of which I ended up sort of getting to know, you know, in the sort of 94, 95 sort of period, you know. We started going to gigs a lot more and stuff, or at least I did. So, but anyway, the whole point of my rambling is that after all those, like, more than 30 years of playing that stuff, after a while you go like, I really want to play something a bit different.
Well, I was actually, so this was actually something that I was kind of going to segue into a bit earlier. So it's interesting that we kind of ended up here anyway. You know, when you said to me that this is now sort of your main musical focus, the first question that popped into my mind was, well, is this because it's something different to what you've done for the past 30 years? And now you basically answered the question that I was going to ask you. And I suppose it makes sense, you know. I will say, you know, like for me, because I'm a huge Nocturnal Graves fan, you know, I actually got to see you guys when you did the Deströyer tour in 2019. Yeah, I was there.
We didn't run into each other there because, like, we were hanging around.
Yeah. No, I think it's because that's when I used to live in north of UK, you know. So I had like a 4-hour coach trip right after the show. So. Yeah, we pretty much had to fuck off straight away afterwards, but it was a absolutely fantastic show. Dare I say, in some ways, I mean, that was just a solid lineup anyway, you know, but yeah, it's just in many ways you guys just stood out to me, you know. Obviously Dead Congregation are just fucking beastly. Deströyer, you just can't fuck with that band, you know, but it was just like, you know, it was so cool to hear some of that stuff, and that was kind of when Titan was quite fresh as well. So hearing some of that material live, but now it's already been like 3 years since your last album. So the fact that you're saying to me, oh, there's not like a lot of material there, well, from a selfish fan perspective, I'm a little bit like, you know, like I would have liked a little bit more there, but also as an artist, I respect that if you've kind of found a new venture that you're kind of invested and interested in, because there's only so many death metal riffs you can, I suppose, come up with and keep it original.
Man, the other thing too, like, and I know, like, watching your podcast, I know that this is your approach with music as well. It's man, if you pick up your guitar and you start writing, and you're kind of you feel like I'm not getting, there's not a lot of energy behind this material, then it's like you got to put it down, man. If I can't set my sights on, like, right, I'm going to do another Nocturnal Graves album, like I'm going to go and start a business, or I'm going to go and do this or that. It's like, man, that's too much of like a structured, orderly approach, you know. Like, music has to come from the inspiration just hits, or like you're in a particular headspace and there's a vibe there, and the music is just, when you're onto that, it just starts hitting and it moves you, you know, like it has an effect. And Nocturnal Graves to me has to have that intense, vitriolic, sinister, when the riffs in that style are hitting, then I know. When it's not, it's like, then I also know, and it's like, just put it down. Like, don't waste time, because it's the idea of just writing music and pushing through, like, the lack of inspiration and stuff. To me, that just ends up sounding like a plastic business model approach, you know. Like, it's no different to McDonald's. It's just package it up, get it out, package it up, get it out, go on the road, package it up, get it out. You know, at what point do you sit there and say, like, man, I'm really fucking struggling for ideas here. I need to find a direction. It's like, man, if the music is just, if it's hitting, then it just comes out.
Well, I totally empathize with that idea, you know, and I actually 100% agree with you. First of all, I think that should be the only approach to extreme metal, is that it should be created out of a need, because it's not a normal style of music. It's not. I don't think it's necessarily a healthy style of music to listen to 24/7, even though I think we've all done that. And I don't think it's necessarily, and I don't think
till I was like, you know, from like, it just kept getting more and more extreme till I was probably 22. And, you know, when Angel Corpse released Exterminate, you know, up and from like when I got into this stuff, so you got an Angel
I'm wearing
Corpse.
the shirt as we speak.
Cool.
That's cool.
Like when they released that, you know, and like I was playing in Deströyer at the time and living in Melbourne. I was living with Keith actually. And we got
Sorry to hear that. I'm joking. Keith's a great guy.
Of course, man, he's a legend.
He is,
legend,
for sure.
Great, one of my closest mates, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, no, all jokes welcome. But when I was in Deströyer and like there was still, you know, Angel Corpse hit with Exterminate, and we were all like, "Fuck, this is killer. This is ripping." You know, like I can hear influence from that album on the Phoenix Rising album, you know, because we were listening to that record a fair bit, and there was still room to be extreme and push. You know, Angel Corpse took it up another notch, and it was like, this is fucking wild.
Oh yeah, 100%.
You know, but after that is when it started to be like, oh man, it's just like, and then it was like, man, turn that off, like chuck Power Slave on, you know. And that was the vibe in the, you know, in the I'd say from 96, 97 on, and then it just started going further. Everyone started going further back and back and back, you know, until, you know, here we are now. But it just gets to that point where it's like, how do you you want to keep doing something that's got forward momentum, but at the same time, it's got to give you the genuine vibe, you know. And Nocturnal Graves, to me, it's like it kept getting more and more angry and nasty sounding, you know, like vicious sounding.
The title song of the very last album, like, holy shit, you know, like that's a fucking angry song right there, just from the intro.
That to me is like that's my favorite track on the album, and it was actually, I think it was one of the first ones I'd started working on, but it was the last one we finished. And when we recorded the vocals, actually, I didn't have any lyrics to that song, and I was at Paul's place. We recorded them there because there was something to do with lockdown. That's right. I was seeing a girl in Melbourne, and so I was allowed to drive there on the proviso that I was going to spend time with her. But then it was like, man, I'll come over to your place and record these vocals. But I didn't have, but anyway, I didn't have it.
That's such a crazy, like, let's just reflect on that law for a moment. What the fuck?
Man, I know. It's insanity. But like, man, I've got to say though, it was perfect for that album. If you cage up something that is used to living like with autonomy, then usually that creature that's used to living with autonomy is probably going to get kind of aggressive about its situation. And so, I put a lot of that into that record, you know, and the lyrics, that even just the vocal delivery, you know, it was the harshest vocals that I'd ever done, the most like extreme. I remember recording them and for that last track, and because the lyrics there that we had no lyrics for, and we sat down and I just started writing, and it just went done. Let's lay this down. Just put it down. And I remember Paul like laughing because he goes, "Man, then your vocals are like your throat is being ripped," and it's like, yeah, man, but it sounds fucking pretty wild, you know?
Yeah. I think that's one of the things that the lyrics are quite powerful on that album, and I did sort of notice the time frame of it. So again, I'm not, maybe I read between the lines too much, but I'm not surprised now to hear that that's kind of the bit of the influence that you were kind of picking up on when writing the album. And I suppose also to the point, if you want to make conclusions, there is that with extreme metal, it can't be formulated. You can't just do it for the sake of it, or for the sake of just pumping out product just because you owe the label something and then get it out there so you get the excuse to tour. And you guys are way on the other side of the world, so touring's already like impossible for you anyway. So
yeah, exactly. So, it was never an issue. So yeah, because we never had that as a as a thing that was driving the band, then we never felt any obligation to have to get on the road and have to release another album. But that for me it's like, that's what, if you approach it like that, that's when you end up with that real sort of plastic, brutal death metal style where you get sent 10 CDs to review and you put it on and it's like, yeah, next one, and it all sounds the same. It's got no individual approach. Someone sent me a recording the other day, and literally I listened to the first minute and a bit, but I just had to turn it off. It started and it sounded like a Cannibal Corpse clone, and then a guitar solo kicked in. And it was like, it just sounds like Cannibal Corpse with James Murphy on guitar. No.
Yeah. But the thing is as well, you want to project that anger. So if you're going through the lockdowns, especially Australia went like full blown fucking dictatorship in that time, like let's not kid around about that. And, then, that's kind of something that obviously pisses you off a lot. And then when you release an album like that, that's kind of like a toxic but also necessary projection of that negative energy. It's a hard and difficult, dark place to kind of go back into. So you don't want to go there unless you really feel like you have to, unless you feel like that anger is there about something else, or like there's some kind of other thing, artistically that you want to go into. So I'm not surprised that after releasing arguably your angriest album, you want to go and do something that's perhaps just fun, sounds good, and it's cool to be a part of. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely, it does. The other thing too, excuse me, I've never been able to, or interested in doing that kind of fun band thing. If you know what I mean, like for me to be involved in a band, there has to be a seriousness to it. I'd never play in like a grind band that was like humorous lyrics and stuff like that. Each their own, but that's just not me. I can't invest in something unless there's a clear message, and the message or the atmosphere or whatever is something that I resonate with. Otherwise, nah.
Well, to clarify, when I use the word fun, it's not fun in like a derogatory way of, this is like a joke, but more fun in terms of playing music that fucking feels good to play. This is like you feel good playing it, and it's good to be a part of it. It feels good to make that music and compose and try something that you've never tried before and kind of maybe express yourself in a different way. That's kind of more what I was referring to.
Yeah, absolutely. The good thing with that I thought that with the Psychic Mass stuff is I get to stretch out as a drummer, and try and play a lot different sort of styles. Because like I got to a point where I just practicing blast beats and double kick patterns for me just got to the point where it was like, man, it's just aerobic exercise, and it was emotionless in the end, and I've been practicing playing drums like professionally for nearly, for like 17 years now, like, teaching and playing gigs and doing it all just for money. And that's my income. I'm a music teacher and I play gigs and recordings and stuff like that. But I got in there, it was early 2000s, because I'd been playing drums like self-taught since maybe 1990. I probably started hitting the drums at home because my father's a drummer, so we always had a drum kit set up.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. He was a professional muso my whole life. Like every weekend it was kind of like, so what are you up to this weekend, Dad? And it'd be like, oh, I've got a gig on Friday here, and I've got a gig Saturday here, and I'll be home Sunday, kind of deal.
All right, sweet.
Which was cool, like all good. Like we grew up all around musos. He was that was his circle of friends were all musicians. So I just went straight into that as well when I was old enough to start really playing. But when I got mid to late 20s, I was talking with a friend, and it was like, he said to me, like, when this band's over, I'm going to stop. I won't be playing my instrument anymore. And it was like, why not? And he goes, I don't really know how to play it anyway. I just play what the guitarist shows me what to play, which is like, cool. But then I realized, like, man, I can do blast beats and fast single strokes around the drums and all that sort of stuff. But it was like, when it comes to the real art of playing drums, like you watch a Buddy Rich solo, it's like, I got no idea what he's doing. But then I went, I want to do this as a career. I don't want to end up, 40. I think I must have been about 27 or so. And I was like, I don't want to end up 40 being like, I don't know what else to do with this. Like, I'm over it, because I know a handful of rock beats to play in, playing a cover band or something. So I just went hardcore into the studying, and practicing like flat out. So
I've been watching a lot of your sort of drum, sort of different videos that you've been doing, and sort of interpreting all these different patterns and rhythms and stuff. And to me, again, I'm originally a guitarist, but I still compose drum pieces, so it's very interesting to me when I see stuff like that, and you really have to pay attention. It's like, oh, where's the kick coming in? Because I'm just like hearing like one big thing. It's quite interesting when it's not a straightforward beat.
Yeah, absolutely. And like for me, that's the real expression of drumming. Like I play, these days I study a lot of jazz and jazz fusion drumming, and that's where the challenge and the musicality of the drums really comes out. I mean, I love prog rock and stuff as well. So, there's so many recordings with great drumming that you have to dedicate years and thousands of hours to actually like understand the detail of what's going on, but the ability to start to get into that ballpark of being able to play that style of music, it requires heaps more than, no offense to people playing ultra full-on death metal and stuff, but this takes a different level of kind of study and practice, and learning to play really fast blast beats. That's a different kind of approach.
Yeah, well, I think what kind of sets things apart is the composition at the end of the day, because with drums, that's, the difficult thing, from what I understand is, if you've got complex beats, let's say if we are solely discussing pushing the boundaries of your capabilities as a musician, I think a lot of that first comes to the composition of the beat and what you're actually performing first, and then it becomes, like, well, how fast can you make it, kind of thing.
Absolutely. But like if you look at if people are interested in jazz and big band jazz, like Buddy Rich, for example, man, Buddy's playing the form of the song, like he knows the arrangement, but everything that's going on in between that, it's all improvised on the spot. You know, he solos. It's like when it goes to his solo, he's improvising that. None of that's written as like, right, I'm going to do this and then I'm going to go here and then I'm going to go there, and it's improvised. So he's doing that on the spot, you know.
Yeah.
Like guitarists like Steve Vai or Guthrie Govan, you know, like they're getting on stage and soloing and whatnot, and that's improvised, a lot of that, you know. So that's where it's like, man, you're right on the edge of, if you can easily fall off the edge, and it's like you just train wreck, or you're going the other way and it's like you've lost the intensity because you can hear that you're suddenly, this energy shifted and you're playing it safe. You're going back to, you're like, oh, I'm getting too close to the edge here. So for me, like, you know, those guys that are like right on the edge of, you know, really, it's like right on the edge of chaos and order. And it's like you walk right on that edge. It's like that's where real crazy music happens, in my opinion, you know.
Yeah, no, I do see that. The difference is that, you know, with guitars, let's say, for example, if you're playing a solo, you could hit a note and you can stop at one point, but then that note can carry on to the following bar or even the one after it, and then you can come in back in the middle. With drums, you can't do that because even when you're improvising, you still need to keep the song going because it's your sole responsibility to make sure the song is still there. Yeah. So it makes it even more impressive if you. You got to make sure that everybody knows where the one is. But, that's it.
I mean, the thing is, you can't do that with extreme metal. You know, like,
I suppose,
how do you go into a section where somebody starts improvising over X amount of bars? You know, and it being so the music is rigid to begin with, and it has to be. You know, the band has to be ultra tight, you know, super rehearsed. Otherwise, it just sounds like a train wreck, you know. So I get it. And, you know, like doing that for so many years, after a while, I think you start to find that, there are boundaries that you end up finding yourself in that after a while you go, I wouldn't mind to try something without those boundaries. And that's really how the Psychic Mass stuff, you know, kicked into gear.
Yeah. Well, I'm very excited about it, man. What are your plans for the release of the album?
Well, those 4 tracks, we're just going to put them online. And we'll probably do like a little DIY tape pressing or something like that.
Cool.
We like doing that sort of thing. But we've got heaps of ideas and heaps of like loose parts of tracks and a couple of tracks that are sort of close to finish. But this weekend coming, we're spending the weekend here just writing, jamming and recording ideas, and we'll do that every couple of weeks for the next couple of months. And I want to start now, like putting down material for an album, you know, just pre-production sort of stuff and building up an album. But man, in terms of like getting it released on a label and all that sort of shit, like, man, honestly, I couldn't give a fuck. Like,
fair enough.
I'm not doing it for that, you know. Like, I like doing it for the process. I love the process of like jamming it and writing it, recording it, and all that sort of stuff. Man, I'm happy for it to stay as like a DIY little band in the corner that's just kind of doing its thing, and a handful of people are onto it. Whatever.
Yeah.
You know.
That's fair enough, man. You're doing it for your own enjoyment, and that's, you know, I wish everyone did that, and then started focusing on the sales and the rest of it, you know.
So do I. Then, you know, then it's just authentic.
Absolutely.
You know? And that's the whole thing. I mean, it's cool when authentic bands have albums out, you know, like I mean, we're Deströyer, for example, you know, I reckon Never Surrender, I think that's fucking killer. I love that album.
Me too. I think it's a great album. I reckon
it's the best album that they've done since Cold Steel, you know.
Fair enough. Wow, okay.
You know, I think I prefer. I like all their albums, but
I
think
suppose there's only a couple of albums in between those.
There's Wildfire and
the 2009 one that I know he doesn't like, even though it's not a bad album.
Yeah, Defiance.
Defiance, that's it.
And I dig Defiance. I reckon it's got some. And that track, 1,000 Blades, that's a fucking classic. That's a Deströyer classic, man. That's as good as like anything off Unchain the Wolves. You know, I reckon. You know, but like,
you know what? Since we're talking about Deströyer, I'm quite keen. Since we're talking about Deströyer, I really want to maybe go back to Phoenix Rising, because you played the drums on that one, if I'm correct, right? Yeah. So tell me a little bit, if we can go back in time, like I think 25 years when you guys made that record. What was that process like? Because that is really like one of the classics of Deströyer, and I think it's just a classic metal album in general, the way I see it.
Yeah, it's man, that was a good time. Yeah, I joined Deströyer in I think it was 97. Yeah, end of 97, and we started ripping into it in 98, beginning of 98, and we did a 7-inch, that Satanic Speed Metal 7-inch. That was like a first sort of little like recording. That was cool, you know.
Yeah.
But then it was like, yeah, let's do it. You know, I was like in the band then, and man, we used to jam fucking heaps. Like, I was living with Keith at the time, so we had a jam room set up. He had a little cheap Pearl export drum kit that I think he'd bought it for Chris Volcano to record the Deströyer demo on.
Right.
Yeah. I guess Chris didn't have any money, so Keith's like, "Oh, I'll buy you a fucking drum kit if you play drums on this."
That's cool.
Anyway, yeah, and so he had that set up in the spare room, one of the spare rooms in the little house that we were living in, and we would jam like, at one point we were jamming sort of like 4 or 5 days a week, and writing. You know, some of those tracks, a lot of it just came out of like jamming. You know, we'd just jam a section and we'd just start jamming, and someone would hit on an idea, you know, and it would just sort of develop. And we had an 8-track in the house, I think, or you had a 4-track. Anyway, whatever.
Digital or analog?
Man, it was analog. I've still got a tape somewhere of like the Phoenix Rising like demo that we recorded on it, and it's like, yeah, it's completely different to the album. Like,
oh, that'll be worth something today. Fucking hell, I'd love to hear that.
Oh man, Keith would fucking probably lose his mind if he was like, "What the fuck are you showing that to people?"
Yeah,
you know, it's just I haven't listened to it for years, but I remember putting it on and being like, "Man, these songs are completely different to what came out." You know, Keith back then, and I think maybe he still is now. I don't know, but he was kind of notorious back then for like, actually, I want to scrap that part. Let's scrap the first half of that song. I've got a better idea. And it's like, oh, man, you keep rewriting this. I remember we got to a point, me and Ian, were like, man, we can keep rewriting this fucking album for another year, and it'll still be like changing in a year. So let's just we've got to do it. But we were jamming heaps and just, we had a rehearsal studio that we were using, and the guy that owned that, he was real cool, and so he'd let us keep our gear there and keep it set up in one of the rooms, and he was cool with the charging us money and shit like that. He let us just sort of keep the space set up for the weekend and whatnot. So we would do these long ass rehearsals, man. We'd jam for like 4 hours or so, then we'd go have dinner, then we'd come back and we'd jam into the evening, you know, till from like 7 o'clock till 11, you know, and then we'd take off. But that's how that went. Like, I wasn't working either. None of us were really. We're all on the dole. So, you know, all we were doing is like mucking around and partying and playing music and writing this album. And you know, there's probably a bit of rose-colored glasses looking back on it, because it wasn't always like, fuck yeah, this is mad.
Sure, yeah.
Like, man, this is fucking depressing. Like, we got no money. I got no money and fucking nothing to do, and you know.
Well, it's cool to see.
And being lazy as well, you know. Like, I was fucking lazy back then. You know, Keith used to get stuck into me like, you got to fucking practice more, man. Like, you're out in your fucking room, like, 12 hours sitting in complete darkness, fucking doing nothing, listening to records. You should be in there practicing. And it's like, in retrospect, it's like, well, yeah, I wasted hundreds of hours doing nothing, you know.
That's really interesting to hear that. Yeah. So clearly, obviously, you know, that drive was there, you know. I love hearing stuff like that, because those are the kind of conversations I've had with my drummer in the past, you know. So it's like, I totally get it, you know.
Yeah. I remember when they came back, Deströyer come back for a tour. It was the one that Pera played drums on when Pera was in Deströyer. It was Roland and Pera.
Okay.
And I'd never met Pera until he came here, but I knew Roland, of course. But anyway.
Roland, also a great fucking guy. He's a very good friend of mine.
Yeah, man. Yeah, legend. Had some fucking killer times with Roland, yeah. But Keith said to me after we did that gig with him, because Nocturnal Graves played support to Deströyer on that, like in Melbourne. But anyway, after we played, he goes, fucking hell, man, you've improved a bit on the drums. Like, have you been practicing or something? It's like, actually, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, like, nice. I was lazy when I was like, you know, because I joined the Deströyer. I was 17 when I joined Deströyer.
Wow.
And, you know, from the country, and like, I suppose I had like grandiose ideas of what I was actually doing in Melbourne, where in reality, it's like, man, it's just another fucking Melbourne band. Like, I mean, they were a good Melbourne band, but like, you know, it was like, yeah, whatever. Like, you're in the band, cool. And so, I mean, I know that if I had have taken it probably more seriously, I would have been improving more on the drums. But when we were doing the Phoenix Rising album, I remember Ian saying to me, man, like, your drumming was improving heaps, you know. So whatever.
And you're younger as well, so it's like different priorities there also, you know. And the crazy thing, I guess that was only the band's second full-length album, you know. But what gets me about that album in particular, you know, it's like you got songs like I Am the War God, and it's like, that's a full-on fucking anthem. But
the whole middle section in I Am the War God, that was written me and Keith jamming, like the down, 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 ba, ba,
down, down. All right.
Yeah, that happened out of a jam. Like, we were just improvising, and then all of a sudden, like, the chord started, and then I played the drums phrase to the chord and that, and after we sort of brought it together, it was like, fuck, we got something here. Let's use this, you know.
That's a cool bit. And then it goes into the da 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 da. Yeah.
I'm the War God's a classic, man. You know, that's like, I still play that live. You know, it's in the live set.
Yeah, for sure. But that's where I was getting with. Is like that song. If you think it's only the band's second full-length album, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the band's not big at all by that point. Like, I don't think there's many people who even knew who Deströyer was, especially by the standards and connections of those years, you know. Obviously Unchained the Wolves was a great killer fucking album, you know, but I don't imagine that in terms still very underground. And what I'm trying to get to is that it takes a lot of confidence, you know, and self-esteem to come up with an anthem like that on your second album as a small underground band, is the point I'm trying to get to. And the fact that song is still a fucking classic. I mean, when they did that show in London last year, you know, which, you know, was like secret location and all that. It was a killer fucking show, by the way. It was incredible, you know. The vibe was amazing, you know, and just like watching him play that song still. But then it's just that, like, you gotta have balls to write something like that, you know, as a small young band in Australia at that time, you know. Man, I just love it.
Yeah, so do I, man. But like, even back then, like, I mean, Keith has always been the same person to me. Like he hasn't. Okay, now he's maybe a little bit more like relaxed, less like maybe.
Well, that's him relaxed.
yeah. I mean, he was like.
That's great.
The same person. Like to me, he's never broken character or anything like that. He's always been the same person.
Yeah, he's probably listening to this right now, so I'm sure he'll be appreciative of it.
He is. G'day, mate. But one of the things with Keith, as you'd know, like I don't think he's ever tried to worry about fitting in with anything. You know, Deströyer does its own thing musically. He just, you know, and they're all like that. And we were like that too. We were just writing music. There was no like, how are people going to react to this at vibes or anything like that? It was like, no, we were trying to write killer metal, you know, and plus we were listening, like I was saying before, you know, when we were writing that album, you know, Exterminate was on the turntable a bit, but it was also like, man, okay, enough of that. Like it's 11 o'clock and we're having a party and then like someone's chuck Accept on, you know, like, I'm a rebel or whatever, you know, like we started it would end up with like heavy metal, you know, Priest and Maiden and Saxon and whatnot on the turntable. So there was still that, like, it's got to be metal, you know, and
yeah, sure.
Yeah, I know that for Keith, he's always cited, you know, Bathory as an influence, you know, so there's that epicness. For me, Deströyer's, you know, especially even on the fucking first demo, man, like that, like Bloody Rabid Wolves track, that's got some melodic sort of anthemic vibes to it. I mean, Onward to Arctiga, that's like a doom, 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 doom. He's trying to do something epic, you know. And Unchain the Wolves is fully that. But
of course,
even on
Trial by Fire, I think probably being the most prominent example of it. Yeah.
Another classic, you know, fucking unreal, you know, playing. We'll probably talk about it, but doing that tour with Deströyer in what was it? It was 2018. There's a poster up there.
Tell me about that. Actually, I think it was the show I came to was October 2019, like 10th of October. Or something sorry,
I'm
like
referring to. I'm referring to the tour I did with Deströyer and in America and Canada when they toured.
Right, okay, sure,
yeah, because I was on drums for that. Because when that tour got booked, they didn't have a drummer.
I see.
Yeah, and they got Kev like a couple of months, I think, before we left. But Keith told me that he said to Kev, like, you can join after this tour because we've already promised it to Jarro, which was fucking cool because it would be like, man, it could be easier. We've got Kev here, we can rehearse, and he doesn't have to come all the way from Australia, you know. But anyway, we played Trial by Fire on that tour, and that was one of my favorite songs to play for the tour. You know, that would bring you to tears almost every night playing at the ending section. It's like,
that's it. Yeah.
Man, if that doesn't move you, you're fucking almost dead already.
Almost. Yeah. No, it is. So, it's a very powerful song. I love it. Yeah.
But so like Deströyer always kind of had that epicness. I reckon. I always interpreted it with that. There's probably people that were like, man, I didn't get that from the Violence album, and it's like, well, you didn't listen to the Burning the Veil of Falsehood then. That whole the Eternal Glory of War, like, righto. It's been there since the start, you know. And I think that was part of the impetus for Deströyer. You know, when Keith did the demo, it was like he was still in Bestial Warlust when he wrote those tracks. You know,
that's true. Yeah. That was still
the Bestial Warlust track. They used to jam that. They played that at some gigs, you know, the Eternal Glory of War. But the other guys didn't like that it wasn't, you know.
Yeah.
So Keith was like, I guess he was like, I'm going to go do my own thing. But
which he very much succeeded at, but also, you know, you can, like, as a listener, you know, I can still, you know, I can enjoy all the Deströyer stuff, early and old. I'm a fan of all of it, but I can still go, you know, like you mentioned, Trial by Fire. You know, like there's a reason why I named my fitness company. You know, then I took the name from that song. It's like, it's perfect. And then Judas Priest later made the song, but that came after Deströyer, So, and then also, but the point I was trying to make is that you've got all that stuff, but then I can still go and listen to the Bestial Warless record and be like, holy fuck, this is like the best thing ever, and it's like, you can enjoy all of it at the end of the day, now what happened along the way, it's just kind of what it is, really.
Yeah, I still reckon that, like, for Australia, like the Magus, Vengeance, War Till Death, the Slaughterlord demo, the Hobbs album, and the Hobbs demo stuff. But for me, it's like, man, it's never going to get better than that. Like the Magus and Vengeance, War Till Death, they're fucking unreal. They're classics, man. I still listen to Vengeance, War Till Death. I remember Keith was out here a little while ago and I said something to him about it. Like, I still listen to it. Really? It's like, it's fucking unreal, man. For war metal, I don't think there's an album that would top it. I don't think you could do an album now. I think for me, it's the pinnacle of that, like, war metal style.
Yeah.
It's fucking out of control. Total wildfire. It's nuts. It's untamed as fuck. It's savage as you can't get more savage than that. I mean, a lot of those war metal, I mean, like, I love Fallen Angel of Doom, but I mean, the production as well, it's like, it's chaotic and stuff, but Vengeance, War Till Death, the production on that is crushing.
It's good. Yeah. You make a good point about that.
They've got like a full-on fucking production to go with the music. Whereas a lot of that stuff, like the Abhorrent, Dawn of Satan's Millennium 7-inch. I mean, that rules, but it's chaotic and stuff, but it's not as heavy as, like, full sounding as Vengeance, War Till Death. And that's my thing, where it's like, you can't top it. It's got everything that Fallen Angel of Doom had. It's got everything that, Abhorrent had, I reckon. But just,
it's got a cool cover as well.
Yeah. Fuck,
cool logo, cool cover.
Yeah. Photos as well were fucking over the top for back then. I remember getting a promo copy of it from Modern Invasion with the, like, he used to print these fucking little 2x4 or whatever you call them, like promo photos. He sent me a stack of those and some CDs, the promo CDs. And it was like, fuck, man, like, this is from Melbourne. Yeah, this is full on. Because I already knew Hobbs Molestation, but it was like, I'd seen a couple of pictures of them and stuff from fanzines back then, but it was always photocopied and real obscured, and I never knew those guys back then. And so, I think I met Damo about 95, and he was out of Bestial then. But anyway, it was that was a fucking wild time, man. There was good shit happening.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's kind of like the beauty of some of those records as well, is that they come out and then they get to be these fucking, like, completely, like, I don't know, like, they just end up becoming these very sort of classic records that stand out in the history of extreme metal,
Totally.
But then at the same time, it's that they're also this time capsule element as well, that the attitudes of the time and the vibe of the time and everything that got poured into it, that to me, that's the special part,
Yeah, man. I mean, if I'm in the mood to listen to Vengeance, War Till Death, like, if I chuck that on, like, I'm definitely transported back to that mindset of how it was back then. Like, I used to write heaps of letters and was into tape trading and all that sort of stuff, sending flyers around, collecting flyers and writing to people. So, that the Bestial album was, like, right in the middle of that. It dropped and it was like, yes.
Sure. Well, that came out in 1996, right?
No. It was 94. They recorded it in 93 and 94. It came out in 94.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. Blood and Valor must have come out in 96. Or 90, right. Yeah, 95 or 96. But anyway.
I have to fact check myself on this one.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. 94 it came out.
Yeah. So it like
Yeah,
I
Blood
remember
and Valor came out 95. Yep, you got it, man.
right? Yeah,
Yeah, that's it.
that 95 is when I met Damo, Bloodstorm. Yeah, but yeah, I remember like Modern Invasion, the label from Australia that released that. I remember they pressed they did a pressing of Transylvanian Hunger.
Okay.
At the same, like an Australian licensed version. And Daniel from Modern Invasion had sent me that and the Vengeance War Till Death like promo CDs with all the, you know, like photos and shit that he printed. And I mean, I loved Dark Throne, you know, I thought Transylvanian Hunger was awesome. But yeah, I mean, Vengeance War Till Death was in a different fucking league. It's like chuck on Transylvanian Hunger.
Oh, yeah.
And put Vengeance War Till Death on, like, yeah, right.
Well, the thing is, like, Transylvanian Hunger is like it's actually kind of a stripped back melodic record compared to its predecessor, especially. Yeah. So if you compare that to Vengeance War Till Death, it's like fucking, you know, to me, you know, I see that sort of timestamp of Bestial Warlust as kind of like the Australian Sarcophago. That's kind of how I envision it.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, they were into that stuff, you know, like I mean, like, I think when I went to one of Keith's mates that he grew up with, a mutual friend of ours, one of the Whyalla boys. It must have been 98. He got me a copy of Sarcophago INRI on LP. We did a trade, and
cool.
But like they were all into that. Like when I first moved to Melbourne and moved to Keith's, it was like looking through his records and it's like, oh fuck yeah, you've got this. Like chuck it on, it's mad. Yeah. And that was the first time I'd seen it. But they'd gotten a hold of that, I think, in the like very early 90s. You know.
Yeah. So well, the record itself came out in what I think. Yeah, I think that one came out in what, like 87 maybe.
87,
so?
I think. Yeah. You know, and being from Australia and no internet and all that, it's like it was all like stuff like that. So you can walk into a metal shop in Melbourne and go, oh fuck, they got INRI here. Like Cogumelo Records would have had no distribution here. So I think Rob from Vomitor and I remember years ago Rob telling me a story, but I'll probably get the details wrong, but it was something that they'd gotten a mail order catalogue and from Brazil or something, and they ordered INRI off it and got it, and it was like, fuck, what the fuck is this? And put it on, like, yeah, this is what we've been looking for, you know. And it's out. It's been done in 87, but this is the shit. So
yeah. Well, one of the very impressive things that kind of came around those years, I think a year before that or so, was when they did that Brazilian 4-way split, which was with like 3 other bands, where it was like Sarcophago and then
the Wolf and Boys compilation.
That's it. Yeah, with the really weird cover with the guy on the horse, I think.
The Steel Knights, like
that's it. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, man, that's fucking unreal. Yeah, I mean, I bought a lot of those. I bought those records in the 90s, you know, and the late 90s, you know, because there was that stuff was real cheap on eBay as well. You know, like people in like when eBay started happening, that stuff was just everywhere. So it may be early 2000s, you know. It's like I've got those records, but yeah, now it was before the whole, like, you know, Nuclear War Now thing happened, and it was like $300 for INRI. It was like, man, it's like $40. Like, people didn't give a fuck about it, you know? Yeah.
Wow. Fair enough, man. That's cool. Yeah. There's a lot of, you know, it's kind of like I'm listening to this, you know, and it's good because it's funny to me because even though I've got it's an extreme metal dominant podcast where I have a lot of guests on where we talk about different stuff, you know, it's not always where I get to kind of dig deep on that kind of scene, you know, but that's actually where a lot of my interest lies as well, you know. I'm you know, because for listening, I am very much an 80s kind of thrash and death metal guy, you know, and all the black metal stuff that was I like to use the term accidentally black metal. You know what I mean? You know, because that's to me, that's Celtic Frost, that's Venom, that's Bathory, that's the Sarcophago, or even like the first Morbid Angel demos, the first Sepultura demo. To me, those are like accidentally black metal, and that's my favorite shit of all time. You know,
it's there. There's like a level of kind of like, I don't know if naivety is the right word, but like they were, you know, a lot of these people were young kids when they started doing that, and it was like they're not very, you know, not accomplished musicians, very limited, you know, recording spaces and whatnot, you know, and that's what came out, and it's like, yeah, that's the best stuff as well. It's the most, I mean, the Abominations demo, man, like Morbid Angel. That's my favorite Morbid Angel, man.
It's the best. Like, holy fuck. Incredible. They were like at their peak before they even released the first album, you know?
Yeah, incredible. Like, they were on fucking fire, man. You know, Trey's guitar solo mania, like every fucking opportunity for a solo, it's like ripping. Unreal. It's total out of control and dark, man. It's like evil.
Yeah, it's just, it is like a
music, man.
It's like, you know, I love that stuff because to me it's like a collaborative projection of mental illness into a music record. That just makes it perfect.
It's like a session put into music. Like, I think that's one of the things that make that style the way it is. Like, I remember talking to Keith even about the Vengeance stuff when they were writing that, and he was like, from the Corpse demo, he was like, no, it's got to be more full on. Like, don't have any stops. It's got to be blast beats the whole way through, you know. And Marcus, who played drums on it, he said to me at one night, he was like, man, Keith was obsessive about it. It was like, you got to hit the chinas more, you know, like that. And it's like, it's just chaos, but it was like, it's got to be more full on, you know. And I think all those bands had that approach, like more is more, you know, like the Abominations. Like, Trey was going fucking bananas on the guitar, man. And it would have just been that thing. I can do more. It can be more. It can be more, until it's like, all right, yeah, this is just over the top. So
yeah. But one thing I will say as well is that more is more works so much better and sounds so much more interesting in the context of analog recordings. Okay.
Yeah.
Like a lot of those albums, it's more and more, and the thing is that all of those records are totally imperfect, you know, whether it's like the, you know, like Volcano, like Bloody Vengeance, or, you know, Sarcophago, or like all those records, Fallen Angel of Doom, they're very imperfect records, and you listen, and the drums are usually the first thing you notice that's fucking all over the shop, right? Yeah. You know, even the first Deicide record. But the thing about it is that there's no cleaning it up. So the fact that it sounds the way it does, it's almost like, I love that saying, art is a compromise between creativity and reality. And that's the thing that makes it special. You can see they're trying. You can see they're trying to reach for that fucking extreme level, but that's just what they're capable of, and that's the thing that makes it special. Whereas in the context of today, you can trigger everything to fuck, make it all like whatever, but then that's just not impressive anymore, you know?
Right, man. I mean, and that's actually one of the things with Psychic Mass as well, where it's like everything is recorded with microphones live as it is, you know, like that's what I can't stand about modern extreme metal for the most part. You know, it's sooner if it comes on and it's like ultra clean, ultra processed. Yeah, the life is gone out of it, man. You know, there's a big difference between Altars of Madness and like the Gateways to Annihilation album. You know, like.
I mean, Gateways is still a pretty sick album, but I see your point.
Yeah. Hang on, what's the? No, actually, sorry. What I lie. Not the Gateways album. It's the Heretic or whatever.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Gateways is the one where fucking Trey's coming out of the swamp in the
Yeah, I think so.
That
Yeah,
album's fucking wild, man. Sorry, I get that mixed up. That album's wild.
Yeah, you got Formula's Fatal to the Flesh.
Formula's I'm thinking about.
You got Formula's Fatal to the Flesh, Gateways to Annihilation, and then Heretics. But Heretics was the one that came out in 2003. And that was the one that kind of sold really badly compared to like Covenant the 10 years before. Like, yeah. So I mean, I think they still had good moments on all of them.
Oh, absolutely, man. I mean, it's probably more appropriate to say like bands like Dying Fetus and stuff like that. That's for me where it's like that's lost on me. You know, INRI over anything of that style of death metal. You know, real clean, ultra tight, fucking perfect drums. To me, it's like nah. Drummers don't play like that though. If you take all the processing and triggers away, it's like, well, drums don't sound that way.
Yeah. You know what? I will say in the case of Dying Fetus, don't know if you've seen them live, you do, like, even if you don't enjoy the music, you can appreciate how tight just three guys can sound playing together, because it's not easy if you know what goes into it. But you're right about like some of the drumming maybe. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think I saw them at a festival they played in Australia years ago. And it was like, yeah, I mean, that side, the musicianship side of it is impressive, yeah. But for me, when it comes to, you know, listening pleasure, then it's like, no, I'm not going to put that sort of stuff on. It's nothing against that style either. Yeah. It's like, man, listen to whatever the fuck you want to listen to. But for me, yeah, I'd rather put on, you know, the Abominations album or the, you know, Oath of Black Blood or something like that when it comes to that style of music, then listen to something that's like, listen to how tight the drums are. So I don't care about that.
Yeah. Just stick on Necrovore instead.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Like, you can't beat the ferocity and the darkness of those bands. And it, you know, a lot of bands, I don't think a lot of bands these days realize that the production plays a massive role in the presentation of that. Yeah.
Well, yeah, for sure. It absolutely does, man, you know. And at the end of the day, it's all about a balance. Listen, man, it's been really fun having you on the podcast. Really, really cool to actually get the chance to speak to you on here, man. Finally, I should say.
Yeah. No dramas.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, man. So where can people keep an eye out on all the Psychic Mass stuff you got coming up? And obviously all your, if you want to do your plugs here, you know, obviously you actually record your own stuff, you do drum lessons, you do drum sessions, so where people can find you.
I've got an Instagram page that I just sort of post on for that sort of thing. It's my name, Jarro _Raphael_ drums.
Yeah, that'll be in the description. People can just go click on it.
Yeah. Psychic Mass, we've got like Bandcamp, and I think it's psychicmass.bandcamp, I think.
Okay. But, have you got any social medias yet for the band?
Yeah, there's an Instagram.
All right.
Psychic Mass official or something. Yeah, I don't look after that stuff. Paul and Liz look after that.
No problem. Well, by the time the episode airs, which is going to be on Wednesday, this will be, you know, all the description stuff will be updated. I'll get that from you. So if people want to go check out the band, if they want to support you, if they want to get your help as a drummer, they can do so. You're a fucking killer drummer, so I can vouch for that. I've seen it in person. There we go. Jarro, my man, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I appreciate your time. And to everyone else listening to the podcast, hope you guys enjoyed the fuck out of this one. We'll see you on the next episode of Iblis Manifestations. Bye-bye.